I can officially say that I'm taking a hiatus off of NXT.
I just want to throw up shit, y'all, for the beginning of the podcast. So I will say this. After talking with the missus last night, then I was talking to my brother today, I officially realized what NXT is right now. NXT is your favorite sports team in rebuild mode.
So basically, my Patriots of this season.
Or like my Eagles last year. Yeah, we are. NXT is in rebuild mode. So do I think we should stop talking about it altogether? No. Do I think we should just keep doing these hot tags? Yes. Because we don't have to go into full-blown detail. We can probably just pick out certain moments here and there and talk about it. But yes, NXT is in full-fledged rebuild mode, and it was so evident to me after last night's episode.
Yeah, my thing is because the moment the show started, I was already in like what the fuck, and from there it just kept continuing to piss me off even more because, and I didn't notice it in the very beginning, and I think after.
Wait! I'm not gonna lie. That beginning part, I was like, "What the fuck is happening right now?" Like, why were there so many just random dudes in the ring cheering and flexing? And it was like, what is happening? Like, what is this? But once again, I realized it's in rebuild mode. So I'm, like I told my brother, I'm putting the kid gloves back on because they wanted it to be developmental. They're going to treat it like developmental. So it's developmental.
Yeah, and that's the thing is that now it actually does feel like it's developmental. And I didn't want to listen to a lot of the people that were saying, "Oh, it's Raw 2.0 and all this other stuff." I didn't want to do that. And now after watching this week's episode, it became apparent to me why a lot of people would call it that. And that's mainly because of the one thing that was very glaring to me throughout this entire show. And that's the fact that one, nothing feels organic anymore. And two, it's almost like they're trying to force feed you everything without you having the chance to basically pick who you gravitate to. Like, for instance, I know they're putting a lot of stock in Braun Breaker. I'm not a Braun Breaker hater. I actually do like him. You know, that's somebody.
His real last name,
Rex Steiner.
Fuck. I don't even care if y'all want to call him Braun Steiner. Give him Steiner, please. He looked just like his daddy.
Hell, and he sound like his uncle on the mic.
And he did the Steiner recliner. Give that man his last name, please.
I just definitely with the beginning of the show, it's like just to have them and like why would you have all these guys in the ring while Ciampa comes out and does his promo? It makes no fucking sense. Like, why would you have him cut a promo like that? It's basically like you had an old NXT segment where everybody came out and talked, and you just had these fucking extras in the ring just sitting there for no fucking reason.
Yes, for no reason. For LA Knight, Dunn, and Holland to come out, and it was like, what is happening here? Like, what is this? And the thing is that, like, to kind of jump around, kind of like what you're saying with the force feeding thing, you had Roddy in the Diamond Mine and Kushida. Roddy defeats Kushida. Soon as he lifts up the title, here comes somebody else. Like, fam, can I even celebrate?
Yeah.
Like, I held up the title and hit, what's his name? Grayson Wells or Grayson Waller?
I think it's Grayson Waller.
He just shows up. Hey, yo, I want a title shot, fam. You say you the Diamond Mine, you the Cruiserweight champ. Give me a title shot. My G, I just won this belt a minute and a half ago. can I even get a chance to even lift this mom before you come out here? I want a title shot.
Yeah, then
Okay,
all these random brawls that happen for no fucking reason.
fam. The women brawls backstage was so cheesy. That
Yeah,
was just it, and then we still haven't seen Uncle Regal yet. Like, where is he at?
you're probably like, yo, I don't want to be associated with this shit. After they painted my office from black to green, I don't want this. But
But it, it,
and
it, it definitely they're definitely letting you know who we want y'all to quote unquote pay attention to.
mm-hmm. And my problem is what happened to these fucking matches? There were nothing but short ass fucking matches throughout the entire show outside.
Because
I think outside of the main event
they gotta
in
squeeze so
Kushida.
much in. Like, you gotta think, look how much stuff really happened within that 2 hours. It was a lot of stuff in between promos, in between the
Mm-hmm.
matches. You got it, and in between vignettes, in between. Oh, here's a new face you might see. You know, you got to squeeze all that in. You got to maximize that 2 hours, or in this
Yeah,
case, what, an hour and 30 something minutes. So you got to maximize that 90 minutes because of commercials.
yeah.
So you got
That
to get it
pacing
all in there.
the pacing in this show is just complete trash now.
Now that
Like
I
it's
do
just
agree with. Even though the kid gloves are halfway on, the
mhm.
pacing needs to get better. And then too, the reports of Vince wanting an edgier NXT. That's how That's why we got that camera angle that they gave Mandy Rose when Toxic Attraction. Hate that name, by the way. When Toxic Attraction made their statement and they did the whole panning up to Mandy and everything. Vince wants
Mhm.
an edgier NXT. That's why you had Andre Chase dropping all those F bombs in his
And basically
vignette and all that.
stealing Toothless Timmy's gimmick.
He basically did. He basically took Toothless Timmy and Drew Gulak
Mm,
and made it to one. And
ridiculous.
then you got Joe Gacy looking like some weird, unhinged Kevin Owens looking killer type
I
kooky
do. I
individual.
like the potential of his
Yes,
character,
if they do it
but
right, yes.
it almost seems like it's a bootleg Bo Dallas from NXT in a way.
Ooh, I ain't even think about Bo. You're right. And what's going to be bad about it is the people who are established are standing out like sore thumbs.
Yeah,
Champas, the Frankie Monets, the Cameron Grimes, the LA Knights, the Garganos, Loomises, all these people are now kind of looking like sore thumbs now because it's like, unfortunately, y'all need to move on. Y'all need to go ahead and just
yeah.
suffer on the main roster like your other peers.
And we got nothing from the way. We got no way type segment.
Other than the fact that we're gonna find out Indian will index his honeymoon
Yeah,
next week, but yeah, it's definitely in rebuild mode. Like
yeah. And
it,
it's funny because the one thing I kept saying to myself, because I kept calling back to, was that fucking Nick Khan interview where he was like, where Ariel Hawani had asked him, is 3 hours too much for Raw? I was like, 3 hours? I wish I could have 8 hours. And it's like, oh, I see where you're getting your 2 extra hours for Raw now in this shit.
and then too,
So
I'm starting to realize I wish Jaeger was here because which one is more top? Is it Elevation or is it Dark? Which one is supposed to be the more?
I think it's dark. I think Elevation is more of the like more would more so be like their developmental.
Okay, well, 205 Live has become their Elevation.
That's still a thing?
Yeah,
Holy shit.
it's men and women on 205 Live now. And when you see who's on there, it's all these up and comers. It's all the people who you might see kind of like the woman who showed her who came in for Indy when she was talking about me and my best friend. I think she had matches on NXT. I know Grayson Waller has matches on not NXT, sorry, on 205 Live. I know Grayson Waller has had matches on 205 Live because you know they moved Drake Maverick back to Raw.
Yes, I did see that.
But yeah, so NXT 2.0 is elevate. I mean, it's dark, while 205 Live is NXT Elevation.
So they got a developmental for their new developmental.
Basically. But yeah, 205 Live is still a thing.
Yeah, and it's just a lot of shit that happened that didn't make any fucking sense. Like after Trey Baxter lost to was it Dante Chin?
Yeah.
Again, a random ass fucking debut of no build. He loses
not
real quick.
Not only that, before you finish, I love how they made his finisher seem so unique. That's Angel Garza's finisher, just
the wing clipper, yeah.
Slightly. It's the wing clipper, just slightly altered.
Just ridiculous. And you have Trey Baxter lose, and then all of a sudden in the back. Now, maybe I'm tripping. Do we know who this chick is?
Which one?
That went to Trey Baxter's locker room and was like talking to him.
That's
like
Cora Jade.
Really?
She's a skater now. They gave her like a skater girl gimmick.
But so again, did they have any interactions before this?
Most likely on 205 Live. It's kind of like they are treating NXT like how AEW does Dark and Elevation, where you got to pay attention to NXT and 205 Live to get some of these storylines.
Yeah, but see that there's and of course I can't hold that bias for AEW on this one because I'll give them flack for that too. But at least at certain points, AEW will do certain type of callbacks to what happened if it's big enough.
True.
But with this, I was sitting there just like, and then the whole like keywords you just superhero, huh? It's like, really about to do this again?
Yeah, apparently, right?
So I don't know. I just it's hard for me to get out of my mindset when I watch this, and there was no gradual change. It was like good, nice little ads for new NXT logo, but there was no ushering in of a new era. It was like, bam, here you go, smack in the face. Like you're basically, it's almost like taking Flamin' Hot Cheetos and just completely changing the flavor just without any notice. And expecting the people that love Flamin' Hot Cheetos to be okay with this shit. It's like, nah, you're talking about a shock to the system, and that's kind of what this is. Because again, I'm not stupid. I know that they're gonna slowly phase out everybody else that have been prominent on this. But the way that they're doing this, again, I go back to saying it just doesn't feel organic to the point to where I'm just like, I don't even know if I want to invest time in watching this, because it's almost like how it was for me. I want to say 05, 06-ish when for WWE, like especially when you had a lot of the big stars kind of leaving. You had pretty much Stone Cold leaving, Rock was pretty much done. You had Randy Orton coming in, you had Johnson coming in. Nothing against them, but it just wasn't that around that time period. I kind of just
it wasn't it.
Yeah. And I didn't really come back in until a little bit later after my nephew kind of got into it, and he was like all about John Cena. And I started watching it again, and I was like, huh, okay.
Well, I was kind of in that same boat too. And then this would also kind of remind me of NXT is also kind of like that weird period SmackDown had. Back when Teddy Long was the GM. And then they were trying to introduce new superstars through SmackDown, but you still had some established people in there because you had like people like Cesaro coming up and all of these others. So it's like that weird period too. And around that time, I was keeping up with it, but I wasn't actively watching it. And then I can't remember what made me just actively. I think they merged the brands back together that made me start actively watching it again. But it's just such a kind of like what you were saying, to a shock to the system. It's like y'all immediately pulled the plug, changed the light bulb, threw some paint on the wall, plugged the plug back in, and was like, "Hey, here's NXT, y'all."
Yeah.
It's like, wait, this is not NXT, but okay, we're fine. It's NXT 2.0. But then too, this is the only thing that I'm not gonna shoot WWE bell for, because it's their fault. You gotta think, for the last 5 years, they kept hearing NXT is the better product.
Yeah.
Then not only you're hearing NXT is the better product, but then you got the people in creative and you got the people like Vince. Well, is NXT so good? How come when we bring up NXT superstars, they don't do nothing? They tend to fail or they tend to flop on the main roster. So how can NXT be so good? Then it was like, okay, fine. Are you watching your own product? Then when you realize, okay, NXT is kind of good, y'all. So this is what we're gonna do. Hunter, I know this is your baby and all, but since it's your baby within my company, it's technically my baby. So I'm gonna push you to the side for a second, and I'm gonna get my grubby mitts on this baby of yours and teach it my bad habits.
It's crazy because it almost seems like this shit was by design, because if you think about it, they kept referring to NXT as developmental brand, that they never acknowledged it as a third brand until AEW came into the picture. Then they put a rocket on it and said, you know what? Hey, you're a third brand. Here's the Survivor Series shit. Here's some stars to go over to NXT here and there.
Some of y'all get into the Royal Rumble.
Yeah. And the thing about that is that, you know, the fans of professional wrestling, the real professional wrestling, never looked at AEW and NXT as competition to each other, because it was two things that we all enjoyed. WWE made that a situation where it was a war of the brands.
Yep.
When they tried to make it seem like it was completely unofficial, it was like it wasn't our fault. You guys were the ones that moved NXT to Wednesdays. You're the ones that put NXT on USA. You're the ones that added an extra hour to NXT. And then instead of keeping it where it was and trying to not make it seem like it was, oh, it's because we want to compete, you took it off of the time that it was actually on with AEW and moved it to another night, so that way it wouldn't be within that same time frame. And so then you made it to the point to where it's like, oh, okay, now you're failing, so this is your fault. So now we're going to take control over it because you can't do your job, making it seem as though, oh, okay, now it's all Hunter's fault, when it wasn't, because he would have been perfectly fine keeping on the WWE network. So, you know, that's just the shit that
I mean, because like I said, because like how we discussed it. What up, Jaeger?
What's up, guys?
We're just throwing our feelings in as far as on NXT, like whatever the,
but
you know,
to kind of like how we said a couple of months back. Remember, that's what made NXT good back then, because it was an hour.
They knew how to book it.
You didn't see the Shinsuke's every week. You didn't see Samoa Joe or Finn Balor's or Bayley's every week. You saw them maybe every other week or every 2 weeks, because they sprinkled in the superstars with the quote unquote more up and coming developmental, and you didn't have to worry about seeing some of these acts every week. But then here it is, you made it a 2-hour show, so now we have no choice But to have Undisputed Era on every episode, we got to have Rhea Ripley on every episode. We got to have
Every up and coming superstar in the ring at once.
We got to have the Garganos. We got to have Karrion Crosses. We got to have Keith Lee, the Cameron Grimes. We got to put these people on every week now because we bumped it up to 2 hours. So we got it. And then not only that, but we're going against AEW. So we got to make sure people are going to watch for a reason.
Correct. Which, yeah, I just... I mean, I'm always down with, you know, covering at least the good that can come out of this NXT. But oh man, just to kind of sit through, like I could not sit through this entire show. I fast forwarded through a lot of shit.
So what tends to help Ashley and I, we tend to kind of poke more fun at it than anything, and it helps a little bit. It's kind of like if you got to take one of them big ass horse pills, you kind of have to keep it on down. You know, it's easier when you can find the things that you're not supposed to make fun of, and you can make fun of it because, like for instance, how we talked about earlier, Roger Strong and the whole Diamond Mine are in the ring celebrating Roddy won the Cruiserweight title. Here come Grayson Waller talking about, hey, I want a shot. And Malcolm Bivens was like, okay, we'll give you a taste of Diamond Mine next week. Immediately, Ashley and I was saying, they never told you who a Diamond Mine you gonna fight. You might fight all 4 of them.
Right.
Like you might get I mean, even though the graphic later on put up Roger Strong versus Grayson Waller, but it was like you might get stumped out by the whole gang. But here it is, you know, you bold, you brave.
I will say this though, because it was a completely unintentional moment. But when Grayson Waller came out and he was like, "Oh, you're gonna have your daddy talk for you," and so then Malcolm Coal Miner came in and he was like, "You got your daddy talk." I immediately start busting out laughing unintentionally, and I was like, "Fuck." You see what NXT 2.0 did? They made me laugh at something Malcolm Coal Miner did.
You loved it. Admit it.
No.
But like for instance,
oh man, that was funny.
Like Lash, you know what I'm saying? Lash though. Like how she got in Frankie Monet's face. It was like, I'll tune in to watch her talk show next week. You know? I was like, she really does not fit in NXT. Frankie Monet, I'm sorry. She really should have went to the main roster already.
Yep.
She really should have went straight to the main roster.
To
she
do
really
something.
does not fit in NXT at all, and especially with this rebrand. And then too, we had a field day talking about Toxic Attraction. Oh my God.
I am annoyed at this whole situation because I look at, again, JC Jane has this thing with that just continues to annoy me.
Look,
it's so extra.
Shouts out to Mike. We both
Shout out to Mike.
We both agreed. JC is not it. She is too cheesy. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
JC Jane feels like the creator star clone of Gigi Dolan.
Something.
And with Mandy, I look at her and I'm like, I don't believe her in this type of stable, especially from what I've seen prior to this. Nothing about her in this whole like ensemble with her and Gigi and JC screams Toxic Attraction from Mandy Rose. But I look at Gigi Dolan and I'm like, oh, this is all her. When she got on the mic, everything about her, believable. I can look at her and I can say, okay, you know what? I'm sold. She doesn't need them.
Go ahead and get used to it because they about to get them titles off of EO and Zoe. So,
and I'm split on that because I think Gigi would deserve. Matter of fact, I think Gigi should go solo. I think she needs to be a singles act. To be perfectly honest,
to begin with, yes.
But we all know that those titles were pretty much meant for Casey and Caden.
We thought, right?
Yeah.
They was robbed.
Hell, shit. Indy and Candace were robbed by
Yes.
losing to fucking Io
Candace
and
got pregnant.
Zoe. I understand that.
So,
But I'm saying is that Casey and Caden could have easily beat the way for those titles.
Yeah.
Like
Him
Io
and
and
Johnny
Zoe.
wrapped your shit up.
Yeah. Just none of that made. And at the same time, the women's division right now is just like you said, Scoot. And it's within this now, like as a whole. Now the women's division that needed no fixing is now wrapped in this whole reboot to where it's like the women were perfectly fine. You didn't have to touch anything. Now they're doing nothing with the women. We haven't seen Raquel, and granted, I'm cool with somebody being off TV, but it's like in this whole rebrand, Raquel has been nowhere. She's had a fucking match with Frankie.
Supposed to be next week.
Well, we'll see what happens.
Are we going to keep postponing it?
Yeah, but that's your women's champion. You've had all these other champions on the show, but you haven't had your women's champion on? And you barely had your tag champs on? It's crazy.
And then, too, another moment we kind of laughed at, especially me, was when Brooks Jensen and Josh Briggs was explaining how they became friends and tag team because they got into a fight at a bar, and it was like, excuse me? Like,
so they're the APA now?
Excuse me? Y'all got into a fight with each other at the bar, and because y'all respected each other that much, it was like, hey, you're my tag team partner now.
Like, I don't want to beat up with each other. Let's go beat up other people together.
Together.
Doesn't this family like fighting?
I was like, yeah, this is happening. This is happening. And they serious.
Yeah. So, MSK, GYV, Imperium, get ready to be pushed to the side.
Get ready to be pushed to the side by Brooks Jensen and I literally just said his name and I forgot that fast, but
Josh Briggs.
Thank you.
JB and DJ.
Be prepared to get pushed to the side by these and then too, honestly, now another highlight, which continues to still be a highlight, but it's only for how long? Legato and Hit Row.
Mm-hmm.
How long is going to still be a highlight? I don't know, but I'm pretty sure it's about to end soon because you can't keep the feud going this long. It's going to have to end either in an 8-person tag or eventually Santos versus Swerve. But yeah, that was a highlight of the episode after, Elektra had her match. And then, her and B-Fab got into it. But
yeah. And I just now realized it because I realized what they're doing wrong and what Triple H was doing right. Triple H treated developmental like developmental, but never treated the show like it was developmental. So what he did, and you can kind of tell by the people that they pushed, anybody who was good with promos, they did more promo stuff on TV and made the in-ring stuff something that you had to wait for. The people that were bad on promos but were good in the ring, they showcased their talents with the in-ring stuff. For instance, we say Jake Van Atlas all the time with Jake Atlas. He's not a good promo, but
he wasn't bad in the ring at all. He's
passable in the ring. So they showcased him more. Same thing with Carmelo Hayes. I was more intrigued by him on the in-ring stuff and his build aesthetically than when he is on the mic. And then when they made him say stuff, they made him keep it short and sweet. And now with them making him talk more, you start to see the glaring things that are negatives in his promo game. And that goes back to the whole forcing shit, because now instead of showing us what these guys can actually do, you're showing us why we shouldn't even bother watching them.
Yep.
And that's the issue with watching this new NXT. And again, fan of Braun Breaker, got no issue. Name can seriously be changed, but he seems like he could be a complete person. Like, I can see them putting the title on him, and I can see him being believable in all of this. But that's also because of his lineage and how he came up. So I know for a fact that he's picked it up just the same thing like Randy Orton. You know, it's a big difference. But yeah, it's just sports, man. That's the only thing is that there's certain things about Raw that are within this show. A lot of predictability for damn sure. Like once that brawl happened, I immediately knew what was going to happen. I was like, oh shit, okay, watch Ciampa and Braun Breaker going to end up throwing everybody out. They're going to look at each other, and all of a sudden we're going to have a tag match. And sure enough, we had a fucking tag match. So
that was the most Raw thing I think that whole episode had.
And that's what I'm talking about. You know, shit like that. But like Scoot said, you know, I pretty much left this up to Scoot that we're gonna continue this as a fucking hot tag, and
we gotta put the kid gloves back on, and we have to treat it like our favorite teams being rebuilt. They're in rebuild mode, and you don't stop technically becoming a fan of your team because they doing trash. You just grin and bear it.
Very true. Very true. And I definitely will say this though. Before they did this whole change, NXT never looked like developmental, and I always kept it on par with AEW Dynamite. But now looking at it, and then I look at AEW Dynamite, I'm like, wow, really developmental. And I would actually put AEW up against Raw and SmackDown now because of the look and the feel of everything, because they have that big promotion feel, even though they're not as big as WWE. And because of the highlighted negatives that they have on this NXT 2.0, the bad is just completely put up front in front of us to the point to where it's hard to look past that and see the positives that are within it. And yeah, that's just my thing.
Because then too, because I like what you said with the bad being highlighted. In 2 weeks, in 2 weeks' time, we have been introduced to over 10 people. Over 10 people we've been introduced to, and it's like, wait, who am I supposed to care about? Tell me who am I supposed to care about? Because you just keep shoving people. Like people just be popping
in
up.
the face.
Like, let me know who I'm supposed to care about first. Like, okay, Braun Breaker. I know for a fact he's next up. Let me definitely pay attention to him. Then you just started throwing folks in my face.
It's like they should have had Braun Breaker as like the new entrant as far as that, and then kept Carmelo Hayes because we've already seen them. Duke Hudson, Andre Chase, Josh Briggs, anybody from the breakout tournament, you should have just made those guys to be the ones that were going to start being pushed more because we have already seen them. That would have been a fantastic transition. But to just sit here and just throw, hey, guess what? NXT 2.0, here's everybody that you're going to be seeing. Deal with it. You know,
deal with it.
I don't know. I mean, look, we'll see what happens. I'm going to care a lot less about it. I'm going to pay attention and hope that they change my mind. But I'm going into NXT now less enthusiastic than I've ever fucking been.
I'm not disagreeing. And like I said, the only thing that's stopping it for me personally is the fact that I know what NXT was. And once again, I'm going to try to keep treating it, like I said, like a team rebuilding, because you can see the talent and you can see who could potentially be next up. They just went about it in the wrong way. They just literally kind of like what you said. It's like, hey, Monday, Flaming Hot Cheetos was this. Tuesday, now Flaming Hot Cheetos is this. Or it's like, hey, Monday, McDonald's has your favorite items. Tuesday, McDonald's is completely vegan. What? Like, what? How did y'all go vegan that fast? One, what?
I don't know, man. I mean, well, look, again, we'll keep giving it a chance. I know right now my preconceived notion about all this is I just don't care. But if it happens to change and they prove me wrong, I'll come on here and say it. But I feel like I'm looking at the inevitable. So we'll see if I'm right down the line, and if not, then hey, everybody wins. But until then, I guess we'll see.
We'll see.
We'll see.
That's all we can give. We'll see.